There is a new focus that the northern circuit and the southern circuit must be integrated, and this must be expedited. In the transport sector, we note that transport is a facilitator of production, and sometimes we can also make this as a lead sector, especially that our transport policy aspires to make Zambia a hub of logistics. So transport can, in its own right, become a growth sector if only we do the right things on the ground. Now, we need to make substantial investment to support air transport policy, to shift focus especially to other modes, because we have invested a lot in the air transport recently. Airports, we have established a national airline, but the linkages between these sectors are still weak. So we need to make sure that there is good linkages between the air transport, the road transport, and rail transport. Sadly, the rail transport is actually undergoing serious challenges. So if we are going to grow this economy well, we must balance up the way we are making investment in these sectors. Plans to recapitalize Zambia Railways and Tazara are commendable and will improve operational efficiency. Also, modernization and expansion of Mpulungu Harbour must be prioritized to increase trade with the Great Lakes region. Prioritizing roads must be, the road priorities must be in such a way that they create critical linkages with major trade routes and corridors, especially with the Congo, DR, also to Tanzania, Nakonde. We talked about Mpulungu Harbour. There must be facilitation of easy road linkages to Mpulungu, and also there are plans to provide rail linkages there, and those things must be followed through. The Katimamulilo road that links Zambia to Namibia needs to be quickly addressed as well. Under human and social development, government plans to allocate more than a third of total spending towards health, education, social protection, water, and sanitation. These plans are good in themselves. The plan recognizes that we need to enhance capacity to collect data and generate a means of efficiently monitoring progress in these areas. In recent years, we have commented about the scarcity of data or monitoring and evaluation in these areas to be able to inform proper planning. The absence of the living conditions monitoring survey and the other surveys that can inform where we are, especially poverty, makes it difficult to plan for these sectors. So we hope that this data is going to be made available in good time, and that there must be provision to revise our projections even as these new data sets emerge. It's very difficult to think or comment about the medium-term expenditure plan without the knowledge of where poverty is, for instance, at the moment. However, with what is there, we will talk about a few things. So to remedy this, the plan commits to conducting national carrying capacity assessments and sub-national analysis at district level and constituency, which will enhance implementation of programs. These are supplementary data generation and analytical frameworks that are going to be put in place. They do not substitute the substantive poverty measurements that we need to have. In the education sector, in the medium term, government prioritizes construction and rehabilitation of primary and secondary school infrastructure, completion of university infrastructure, provision of teaching and learning materials. Proposed average spending of 14.9%, however, falls short of the Education 2030 framework of action, which proposes 20% at least of the national budget allocation towards education. However, we recognize that we are coming from difficult situations, but these are sectors that are critical to improving the human resource of this country that we have talked about. If we are going to grow manufacturing, mining, agriculture, the human resource must be improved. Despite the recent mass recruitment of teachers, teacher-pupil ratios continue to be bad. There is need to continue with the teacher recruitment to narrow that gap in the teacher-pupil ratio. The government must devise a long-term plan backed by external support to recruit health workers and teachers. Under the health sector, there's an 11.1% proposed allocation to this sector. But this also falls short of the budget declaration, and we take note of that. And again, the same caution that we are coming from difficult times is brought to bear here. However, the medium-term budget plan commits to effectively addressing the challenge of procurement, storage, and distribution of medicines, but does not mention a specific strategy that is going to be used to make a difference from what we have seen in the past 2 years. Despite full disbursement of to the health sector, there have been challenges in maintaining steady supply of medicine. So if we do not resolve what has been the challenge in the past 2 years with a proper, a recognized strategy, we are likely to continue with the similar challenges. Government must prioritize developing domestic capacity to manufacture drugs to improve the supply of essential medicines and drugs. Under social protection, in the last 2 years, disbursement rates and timelines of disbursements have markedly improved, and this is commendable. The plan is silent on whether the government plans to horizontally or vertically expand any of these social protection programs. Despite recent pension reforms, government must continue to embark on comprehensive reforms to ensure the effective management of Zambia pension systems. Government must also leverage on ICTs to improve the management of social protection programs. This includes database management and disbursement of funds. Under the environment, what we have noted generally is that there has been scaling down in allocations to environmental and environmental protection programs. Now, however, when we look at 2023, we see that there was an allocation of 0.6% in 2023, and this has improved to 1.2% in 2026. But this is less than that which had been planned previously from the 2023 to 2025, the previous medium-term budget plan. So there has been a narrowing down in terms of what is being allocated compared to the previous plan. So to achieve success in this sector, government must expedite innovative financing and resource mobilization vehicles for climate change interventions, such as the use of green bonds and carbon trading. These are articulated in the medium-term budget plan. However, they have also been articulated previously, but there hasn't been significant movement in this area. So new strategies need to come on board. We need to see the strategies that are going to be used to make the difference, but these are not showing up in the plans. In conclusion, Zambia has made headways in restoring macroeconomic stability, which is critical for anchoring development. The enhancement of fiscal fitness and attainment of debt sustainability is also noted. The growth will be mainly driven by positive performance in key sectors such as mining, agriculture, and manufacturing, according to the plan. But we have noticed previously that these have underperformed, and we need strategies that have been highlighted to move these forward to be implemented. There are some strategies, and we think that more strategies need to be articulated to help change the scenario, especially rural road infrastructure, rural transport infrastructure needs to be prioritized. Over the medium term, domestic resource mobilization will be the key source of financing. However, again, to achieve this, government must overcome the impediments to this mobilization. The informal sector is so large. We need to work on that. How do we bring it on board without killing its growth potential? In order to stimulate growth in the economy, the government must address challenges in the mining sector and ensure seamless transition to the CATS. Government must also focus on enablers such as transportation. Government plans to continue supporting social sector flagship programs such as the free education policy. The social cash transfer must be upheld. To support implementation, government plans to allocate that 3% of all spending over the medium-term budget period, budget plan period, to these sectors. However, the total share of expenditure in the sectors is projected to be marginally lower in the period than what has been internationally agreed as the standard for spending. Government remains resolute to achieve its ambitions towards sustainable development that is anchored on sustainable environment, ecosystems, and natural resource management. However, the 2024-2026 expenditure projections are less than the 2023-2025 projections. To meet the financing requirements of the sector, the government must rely on innovative financing mechanisms, which we have already talked about. I thank you for your attention, and we are ready to respond to any arising matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chikuba and your team for the presentations. Honourable members, one question at a time, no preambles. So I know the hand of Honourable Kamondo, Honourable Mungandu, and Honourable Jamba. If that's the first round, then I'll take the next one. Please, straight to the point. We are already way out of our time. Honourable Kamondo.
Thank you, Zipa, and thank you, Honourable Chairperson. My name is Elliot Kamondo, Member of Parliament for Mufumbo constituency in Northwestern Province. I've been told no preambles. I wanted just to find out from you, maybe if you can comment on the issue to do with mining in Zambia. And this one has to do with the exploration. We have a report like about 48% of Zambia has not been explored in terms of mine exploration, and that gives us a very big challenge, not knowing almost 0.5% of the minerals or whatever we possess in this country. And we have seen actual government intentions to make sure that they put a lot of resources in this issue of exploration. Now, according to you, don't you think this one is where we have a biggest challenge? Because it looks like we have looked at copper and forgetting other minerals that maybe Zambia is endowed with. What do you think should be done expeditiously in order to have or to know what we have as a country, other than allowing people to go and find out what is underground, and which is also leading to illegal mining? What do you think we should do? What advice do you have to the government? Of course, you have talked about it. I've seen actually you have talked about it, but I think I wanted you maybe to talk about it more. What do you think should we do in order maybe to go to know what we have, which we don't know? Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Mungandu.
Thank you, Chair. Witness Mungandu Davison, MP, Chama South constituency. I would like to just maybe add, from the look of things, we concentrate more on what the government, on the expenditure side, without first looking at the revenue. Chair, my question will be based on the revenue side, and I'll make it as a write down what Honorable Kamondo has just said. In your presentation, you indicated that the economy is envisaged to grow from agriculture and mining. Then later you indicated that the mining side production is going down. What do you think has led to this scenario, taking into account that the government has put in a lot of incentives, tax rebates, and many other issues to do with mining in order to boost productivity? We are projecting, I think we're remaining with 8 years now, that we should be able to attain from less than 1 million tons per annum to 3 million tons in the remaining 8 years. Do you think we'll be able to achieve this? And what could be the problem? Because the mining houses have indicated that they'll be making losses for the next 5 years. As a committee, I think we have this information. What could be the problem? Or what should the government do to ensure that we realize the mineral wealth that this country has for the benefit of its citizens? I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Jamba.
Thank you, Chair. Zipa, the issue of agriculture and whether CASIP or FISIP, do you feel that as an organization, the idea of FISIP or CASIP should continue? Because we are spending too much money. When you look at the budget in terms of agriculture, just check 2024, 2025, it's very high. And when you look at the money spent, so much of it goes into this same idea of CASIP and FISIP. Meanwhile, the same government again gets the money to buy the same maize into FRA, which they are selling at a very low price. Are you sure that as advisors or people who analyze issues, this program should continue, or we should just say we forget about it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zipa. You can respond to those.
Thank you. I will start, and I will ask my. I will start, but I will ask my colleagues to also come in and help to strengthen the points after me. With regards to the issue of mineral exploration, how can we make sure that we improve our knowledge of what resources we have and take advantage of those resources to help improve our resource basket and production, in particular in the sector? I think government has informed us within this medium-term budget plan that there are strategies of using both satellite technology to undertake exploration and cadastral approaches, that the traditional approaches that have been used. And this, I think, will help us to close this gap of knowing what is under our soils, and also helped us to focus our attention to areas where more of higher value resources are. I think this is a good move. However, without proper organization, and this is where now the Commission comes in, without proper organization, this will not be very helpful for the country. These minerals might be smuggled, might be off-taken by people who don't even pay taxes, and might even be sold at lower value from our artisanal miners who are in this sector. But if we organize the way the government has also proposed, that there should be an off-taker identified by government who is to improve the accountability and who also pays taxes, I think this will give us, I think, a pedestal from where to begin from. I think the issue of exploration improving on satellite imaging as a beginning point is a good move. However, we must not I think, undermine the importance of the traditional cadastral approaches to exploration, because that then gives you more specific data about the minerals that you have and helps to be more focused in the mining activities. I think coupling this to the second question from Honorable Mungandu about revenue as well. We need to diversify our mining activities. We have relied on copper for a long time, and it is for a foreseeable future likely to be a major mining activity. But we need to bring on board other minerals that we have not known, like gold, sugilite, and others that might emerge. We need to diversify, and exploration is one sure way of diversifying. And also the management of licensing is another way of ensuring that we are more focused in our efforts to improve on productivity in the sector. On agriculture spending, there is a mix of objectives on agricultural spending here. One is economic, and the other one is social in our approaches. But what we have said previously is that we must be very delineated. When we talk about the social component, it must be clearly delineated to the social sector. For instance, we do have the program that under the social welfare, that is agriculture related, farmer in food security pack. The FISP should have been an economic activity. So the migration to CATSIP is to try and make the FISP more economic, and also to remove the bottleneck and the exclusions that were there in the FISP, where focus was on mainly the arable agricultural production. You had no livestock for the FISP. We are only focusing on the on arable agriculture, and also there has been an element of entitlement which we talked about under the previous approach. But I think that the new approach is trying to migrate from being so government-driven program to include the private sector to determine how the sector must grow, and I think that will also enhance efficiency in the agricultural sector. But further, there is an issue of food security at stake as well. So there has to be a bit of government input, continued input, because of food security consideration. I'll allow my colleagues to maybe add on this as sector experts.
Thank you, honourable members, for those questions. I'll add, and I'll start with the first question on the FISP. Indeed, to agree, this problematic program from the financing side. Like you rightly indicated, honourable member, we've had challenges in terms of higher than planned expenditure in the past. Forex outflows, it's also contributed to that, because basically what we've had is government also importing the fertilizer that has been used. Of course, now there are plans to produce that fertilizer locally. And then the other thing also that's quite critical has been distorting the maize market. Currently, it's very difficult to even determine or understand what the current price is of maize in terms of the real price, because of the heavy government involvement. Part of the things that I think in the long-term plan we've been recommending for is to shift this particular program from it being our delegation leader mentioned, a program where it is used to sustain people but focus on those that are more productive. So ideally, like we recommended, is that government must be bold and move it away from those that are subsistent farmers to those that are more emergent and more productive. That way you are able to guarantee production, which leads to food security. And then in the long term also move those that are basically subsistent farmers on the program to other programs such as the social protection programs. Under social protection programs, for example, we have the food security pack, which is a program that targets vulnerable but viable farmers. So in the long term, we must transition this particular program to make it more effective by removing those farmers that are basically subsistent and gradually moving them to a more social protection program that they benefit, and leave this agricultural program to those that are emergent and more productive. Then just to comment on the issue of exploration, I think this is something that we've also noted has been a big challenge. In our past interactions with the ZCCM, they had actually indicated that the cost of exploration are quite high. And we had a discussion over the ambitious target to meet the 3 million metric ton output. And one of the things that they had mentioned already was that quite a number of mines, like you rightly put it, are operating, I think, at half capacity. So they are not at full capacity. And the mine, I think the mines in Northwestern Province produce around 300,000 to 400,000 metric tons. And to be able to meet that 3 million metric tons, we need to have mines 10 of those mines, 10 mines the size of those that are in Northwestern Province, to be able to meet this target. Now, one of the issues that ZCCM had raised to us is that to be able to put up a mine the size of Northwestern Province, you would need to spend around $100 million in exploration. And those are the costs that are attached to exploration. So in the long term, we must find ways of either reducing the cost or ensuring that the exploration costs are also effective. On the revenue side and benefiting, the exploration costs have also been a challenge. When we hear stories of mines not paying taxes, it's because they negotiate to discount their exploration costs. So for example, if they spend $100 million on exploration, they will then negotiate that as they pay the taxes, they discount or remove their initial investment of exploration. And so if we are to benefit, I think exploration is one of those issues that we need to look at, but also look at how can we ensure that it's cost effective or essentially reduce the cost of exploration. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take the last two questions from Honorable Mutale and the Honorable Kambon, then we'll close. Honorable Mutale.
Thank you very much. Chair, my question is very simple and basic. I look at agriculture as one of the sectors that has been chosen to try and grow our economy. And then I also note that there's an encouragement by ZIPA that government should continue on employing in the health sector and also in the education sector. To me, this is overburdening government in terms of salaries and wages, whilst the sector that we need to look at, which is productive, is agriculture, where you haven't mentioned anything on extension officers, to which all of us here, we know that these are the drivers of our economy should agriculture boom. I need your serious comment whether what you are suggesting to government should be the correct way to go. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Kamboni.
Zipa, I don't know, you analyze policies, or I'm sure you are also involved in making policies, good ones. We have been mining throughout, I think, my life as a country, and we don't seem to get it right. And it's the foreigners, the people get the mines that are benefiting. Now, we have a situation where even the policies that we have now currently in mining are not very clear. I think I heard the minister, mines minister, saying he's still preparing the policies 2 years down the line. What could be the correct policies for the mines? Because frankly speaking, we're not getting what we are supposed to get from these mines. It's full of stories, and what we are getting is very little. Even when we say we get, I don't know whether it's 70%, it doesn't really do much for the country. It's not visible enough like we see the trucks of copper leaving the country. So my question is, what would be the correct policy? We have gold mines that are now on standstill, whether they are mined in the night, I don't know. But what should we do as a country to maximize our profit from these mines? Botswana seems to be getting it right. We are not getting it right here, because if we did, we would see that in our daily, living. And the issue of tax incentives for the mines, we seem to be negotiating from a weak point of view. Because when we negotiate from a weak point of view, you are abused. Why do we give incentives? And we analyze them that these incentives really bring what we are looking for. We keep on giving incentives people who are making huge money, and these incentives, we don't actually analyze them on whether they really achieve the goals that we intend. That when we give them tax incentives, they are going to invest more or make more money.
Okay.
But meanwhile, the locals here in the country, very few areas do we give tax incentives to allow them to grow. So I really would like to know what you say about this. And finally, on agriculture, if we went through irrigation.
Honorable Kamboni, one question.
Yes.
We're running out of time. Sorry.
Yeah, agriculture. Well, he has stopped my I'll meet my chairman outside.
My apologies. So, Mr. Chikuba, as you very briefly, we are out of time. As you respond to those, also there was a question from Honorable Mugando. I think maybe we didn't get his responses quite well, where he was saying we seem to be concentrating more on expenditure than the revenue side part of it. Maybe you may want to just to touch base on that one, then we'll close.
Thank you. Let me invite my colleagues. I think they go directly to them.
I think they've gotten the gist. Is it, Mr. Chuko, you still remember? Okay, Mr. Chuko, and your team can
Thanks, Chair. And thanks, Honorable Mugando, for that question. I think when our head was presenting, one of the issues, I'll probably just go back on revenue mobilization, had to do with, for instance, informality, the high informality in the economy. And you can actually tie this to the small artisanal and small-scale miners. I think just from the literature or even just from the happenings currently in the economy, you can see that there's a lot of informality in this sector. So if we're going to collect revenues to actually meet this high expenditure that we're always talking about, there's need to actually look at ways to actually formalize even these small-scale and artisanal miners. Then if you move to the issue of fiscal incentives, even the document that we're actually discussing today actually looks at issues of streamlining fiscal incentives. For instance, you've got the corporate income tax, the CIT. It's got there's what they call the CIT rate schedule, which actually taxes different sectors at various rates. So all those fiscal incentives, a lot of people have been complaining, or stakeholders have been complaining, say that discrimination actually distorts the revenue base or collections in the economy. So even the medium-term budget plan actually does refer to say we need to start streamlining or moving away from these fiscal incentives, because really as an economy we are not actually getting the required benefit from some of these fiscal incentives. And then also there's been talk to say we need also to start reviewing these incentives even from ZDA, even from the Revenue Authority side, to say we need to review them on a yearly basis to actually see if we're actually getting the required benefit from these fiscal incentives. So actually we do agree with you to say some of these fiscal incentives really are not actually giving us the required benefit as a country. Then again, I also move to the issue of local content, which Mr. Chikuba actually alluded to, which again also is an avenue for revenue collection. The mining sector is highly dominated by these large mining houses, large firms. You've got First Quantum and the like. But then we really don't have the local content policy or local content legislation, for instance, that can allow me and you, who's a local, to actually supply or actually protect us to supply to the mines. But then if you look at how much these mines trade in terms of procurement, they look at millions and millions of dollars, and they'll trade with the external markets or the external companies, and then leaving us as foreigners. But if there is local content legislation that protects me and you, we'll be able to reap the benefits as a country, because that will have spillover effects into the domestic economy in terms of what we're collecting from VAT. If you've got a company, what you'll be paying as pay-as-you-earn, customs and excise duty, all that would actually spill over into the domestic economy. So these are some of the issues we've actually highlighted in the document that again can also help us to actually achieve the required domestic revenues to meet our expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe if you allow me to respond to the question on recruitments. Yes, I think we received a question from Honorable Mtale on the comparison between the recruitments of agriculture, comparing agriculture and health and education. So one of the things that we note is that there are plans to continue recruitment in terms of extension services. Of course, the numbers are not significant. But when we compare the two sectors, we are basically looking at an economic sector and the social sector. So when you talk about health and education, those are social sectors. They are quite critical and they are far-reaching in terms of improving the livelihoods of individuals. We also recognize the backdrop where we're coming from. I think around 2013 or 14, we had a wage freeze, an employment freeze and wage freezes from government. So there was a period where government was not recruiting. There was a period where government would recruit teachers and health workers on an annual basis. And for a period, there was a pause. And as a result of this pause, the deficit had actually grown. And what we recommend is that government should look at a long-term plan, if possible, to even have that plan backed by external support. So if we can seek external support, I think that's one of the recommendations that we make. If we can seek external support to actually support the recruitment of health workers and teachers, this will be something that will then ease the pressure that we have. But currently we have a huge deficit in terms of teachers and health workers. Our population has also grown, and so those that are in need have actually increased. Further, when you look at the statistics, you also realize that the number of children dropping out of school has also increased. And so when we talk about, for example, agriculture itself, we're talking about mining now. The questions that we need to ask ourselves are, who are going to work in the agriculture sector if we do not train? And that training starts from primary, secondary school, all the way to tertiary. If we're talking about manufacturing, we're talking about agriculture itself. We're saying, can we move towards value addition? Who will come in and add value if we do not invest in educating? I know a lot of people tend to look at the social sector as just expenditure, but this is an investment because this is a critical enabler for the development that we actually want to achieve. I think our delegation leader, Mr. Chikuba, had mentioned earlier that skills have actually been identified. Quite a number of manufacturing companies, even in the mines, they will actually identify that there are jobs that they are struggling to fill because they don't have the required skills. On the other end, we then look at a lot of these institutions then bringing in foreigners to come and work and take up some of these jobs. And there are always complaints about why are we having people to come and take up simple jobs. It's because we have not invested sufficiently in training our population. So we still stick with that recommendation because we feel that's still very important. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chikuba?
Thank you. Honorable Kamboni had asked what is the correct mining policy for Zambia. I think the way to go is local content. We must put as much of that business that links into the mines in the hands of Zambians. And we must continue to explore and continue to codify the product and also undertake marketing within of some of these commodities, agricultural products, within mining products within the country. Botswana got it right because they onshored the marketing and processing. So we can onshore processing and marketing of especially the high value mineral products. We had started at some point where we auctioned gemstones within the country. We must continue on that trajectory. The Suge Light, what are they doing with it out there? Can we add value to it within the country and auction it locally? The gold, can we have lapidaries that are going to process the gold into jewelry? We already have a few that are in that sector, but we need to expand that. And all that is education and skills development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zip and Mr. Chikuba and your team. Zipa, most sincerely for appearing before this committee this morning. This is where we'll end for today. I'm sure not too long from now again you'll be coming to appear before some of these committees, and we sincerely want to thank you again because you have always been coming to appear once called upon. In terms of the provisions, Kaptkov, of the laws of Zambia, the immunity also end here. do enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Chipoka Mlenga. I'm Member of Parliament for Chingola constituency under the United Party for National Development. I am currently working as Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry. President Hakainde Hichilema was gracious enough to give me the opportunity to serve the Zambian people as Minister in Commerce, Trade and Industry. And under his leadership and mentorship, I am learning quite a lot of things to serve the Zambian people to the best of my ability within the given time and the given resources. I have been married for the past 16 years to a young lady that I met at university, at the Copperbelt University, Likonge Makai. She is an electrical engineer. She's been a very, very good source of encouragement to myself in many, many other spheres and aspects of life. Together, God has blessed us with twins, a boy and a girl, and they are 14 years old. And I am born from Mr. and Mrs. Mlenga. My father is Aston Chilufya Mlenga, my mother is Monica Mlenga, and from 7 children, I'm the 5th, 2 girls and 5 boys, of which I'm the 5th one. Before joining politics, I worked in my private life. When I just graduated from university, I joined the local government, Mufulira Municipal Council, where I worked as a management trainee, or should I say an intern, for some time, barely 3-4 months, before I joined Konkola Copper Mines from 2006 until 2021, when I left the mining industry. And I worked in the mining industry, serving many different portfolios, until such a time when my affiliation into politics, you know how the past government was quite oppressive and very vengeful in many different ways to people that were perceived to be against them. And indeed, I spoke so much loudly against the tyranny rule of the past government, the injustices that we saw, the uneven distribution of wealth among the general public, among many other things. So deliberately, after being incited by some non-members of parliament then, 2 of them, I was declared redundant. Graciously, gladly, I left. I walked away in 2021, and I will be very clear and glad that through my media engagements on radio and TV, President Hakainde Hichilema identified me. And then I was given a chance to contest the seat under the UPND because I was coming in from the alliance to work together, and that is a decision I have never regretted. Well, my constituency is a very cosmopolitan constituency in terms of creed, ethnicity and religion. You know, it has got rural communities, it has got peri-urban, and it has got urban communities. It is the biggest in population constituency on the Copper Belt. It has got a registered number of almost 100,000 people. It is in the 90,000, almost 100,000 registered number of voters, and I'm very optimistic that in the coming elections it will be even more. So this is an election that you really have to pay particular attention to the needs of the people, because the needs that are in a certain ward are different from the needs in a different one. So you have to pay particular attention to the needs of each constituent ward and give development based on their customized needs. And it has been made easy to provide this development by the enhanced CDF by the President that he has given us, which is being released on a timely basis. I can assure you that I've got 18 wards in my constituency, and in these wards, the needs in Chingola Central are different from the needs in Ipafu, Mudenda, Chabanyama, and other places. So others are asking for boreholes to get decent water facilities. Others are asking for markets as trading places, and we are giving them. Others are asking for crossing points in terms of bridges. Others are asking for road networks. But within the resources we have and the time frame we have, we are able now to provide these facilities. Obviously, as resources are coming on board within the given year that we are doing, but definitely we are reaching out. So it's an amazing one. And one thing that I can tell you about my constituency, it has got more of women and youth. So our youths are very dynamic in their needs. So this is something that, as Member of Parliament, it's not also just as easy as it may be perceived, because the needs of the youth are different and they change given time that evolves as every day passes. So I also have to pay particular attention to their needs and see how we don't leave them behind. In the past, youths could just be called cadres, but I'm very happy that we cadres now are not just seen as cadres. Because of the enhanced CDF and how the financing system has come in this country, we the cadres are part of the value chain in development. We are given opportunities not only to line the streets and wait for members of parliament to give us squatches and coins. We are beginning to participate in the project that CDF is providing, but contribute and also be engaged in educational facilities, like the grants that are being given for training plumbers, teachers, and many other people. So I'm very excited that as dynamic as it may be, as cosmopolitan as it may be, it has given me an opportunity to understand people in depth and learn management skills. But definitely a lot of insight is coming in, even from the President himself, and I engage a lot the Provincial Minister, Honorable Matambo, who has spent a lot of time in many different places, and we talk a lot and learning from one another, and he's been very supportive. We have to believe in the system, and collectively as a team we will achieve. We have to understand that we used to struggle in the past. Just to get water to run from a borehole that was sunk by government at Chwempala was something that was never heard of. Today we have done it. We are talking about Munsenga, which had a health facility which was running from 7 o'clock to 14 hours. Now with enhanced CDF, we are putting up a mortuary and a maternity wing facility where our women can receive decent health maternity facilities, among many other things. So all I can tell the people of my constituency is let's keep engaging. Even from the criticism that is coming on board, we are drawing lessons, and collectively we will do something that will change our living standards. Look at Fipuya Bridge. It is always a river when it rains and people cannot cross to the other side. Others who have to, our women have to undress, our young boys have to be swept away just to move into those facilities. But we are going to put up a state-of-the-art bridge where two cars can cross past each other. Trucks that are carrying food and farming input can cross. We are going to do this together, and we are not going to leave anyone behind. So my message to the people of Chingola constituency, starting from Munsenga all the way to Chwempala up to Mudenda, we will march together, we will do and implement our projects together. I am very excited that when we look at our councillors, they are coming on together and we decide which projects we are going to do in each ward and how we are going to implement it. Thanks even to the commitment from the town clerk. And her directors, they are very much equal to the task, getting development to the people as and when the development has to be provided. So I would just want to offer my support to the council, to the mayor and his team, and ultimately the people that gave us the mandate to serve them. So collectively the UPND is going to deliver in Chingola constituency and beyond many other places that we are residing in. Thank you very much.
am Julian Inyemba. Those were my names given by my parents. But I have a very funny name, a nickname, which was given to me by my father, Mfanki. This is the name which I'm known even in the constituency. Even by the little girl, I'm known by this name, the nickname. But it is not on my professional papers, neither on my NRC. Then in the teaching fraternity, because I was a teacher, I'm known as Mrs. Kapia, because I was married to Mr. Kapia. So when you go in the teaching fraternity, I'm Mrs. Kapia. When you go to the constituency of Chifunabuli, I am Mfanki. When you come to parliament and on a professional level, certificates, it's Julian Inyemba. I'm a widow. My late husband, Mr. Lucius Constantino Kapia, died in 1991. He was working here at National Assembly. I'm a mother of two, a girl and a boy. A girl aged 32 and a boy aged 30. I went to Mansa Teachers Training College after completing grade 12 or Form 5 at that time from Zambia Secondary School, because first of all I went to Lubwe Primary School for the Catholics. Then I qualified. I went to St. Mary's Secondary School in Kawambwa, where I did Form 1 to Form 3. Because of financial challenges, I shifted. I got a transfer. I went to Zambia Secondary School, where I did Form 4 and Form 5. From there, I went to Mansa Teachers Training College and pursued a certificate in primary teaching. Then I went to teach at Lukwesa Primary School in Mwense District. Then when I got married to my late husband, Mr. Kapia, I shifted to Lusaka in 1987. Then I taught at Justin Kabwe in Mandevu. I taught at Olympia Primary School in Olympia. And then I taught also at Bama Primary School before I went on voluntary separation to go and do my own things, because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a teacher and an entrepreneur at the same time. So I went on voluntary separation from the government. Chifunabuli constituency is a new created district which was declared by His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu in 2018. Chifunabuli has got potential to grow because it has got a lot of water bodies. And Chifunabuli people, as I know, they are hardworking and they would want to do whatever government program is being brought, especially the women folk, because I've gone there as an example to them. I come from a rural area. I was born there and I was brought up there. No wonder I took up this responsibility. Right now, Chifunabuli is on a good road to development, especially if we use the water bodies for agriculture throughout the whole year. And when we can even go for fish farming and then the growing of rice. If we can only have people who can go and invest in Chifunabuli, especially in the growing of rice, cattle rearing, fish farming, and vegetable growing, anything. Chifunabuli has got a fertile land, it has got plenty of water, good rainfall pattern. My developmental agenda for Chifunabuli, looking at Chifunabuli, which was under the missionaries for a long time, the white fathers, they developed Chifunabuli, and Chifunabuli had a lot of people who were educated. But I have observed the literacy levels have gone up. So I'm now advocating for all the parents to be taking their children to school. When you've got an educated society, an informed society, things will be easy for you. And then the development would even come, because most of the people would be able to understand the agendas and the programs for the government. The last word to the people of Chifunabuli is that I have stood as an example to them, especially the women folk. They are supposed to look at me as an example. I have gone into the constituency, interacting with them, encouraging them to do small businesses, encouraging them to grow food, to protect their families with food security at a household levels. I'm always there. I'm encouraging them so that we work together as a team. We shouldn't only be looking at men. I've done it. Chifunabuli women can also do it. So I'm their role model. That's why I always go there to encourage them to do one or two things. We have formed clubs where we are rearing chickens, we are keeping goats, and we are also going into agriculture and into fish farming with the youths and the women in Chifunabuli. I want Chifunabuli to go back to the roots where our parents taught us to work and then to have self-discipline. Tumwebe nangumbo banamayo na batatane misepela chentubombele pamo insala nindi minwa tempulirwa chentubomfya menshile satupele chentubomfya nomushili usumole satupele kuchifunabuli ifwenga kwali babashuka ifwe na chifunabuli twalikwata mensha yengi twalikwata nomushili usuma wotwingali mamwe filimwa fya kweba tumwaka wonse tuleli okwa buloku bulwa.
My name is Gordon Mwila. I'm the Member of Parliament for Mufulira Central Constituency under the Patriotic Front ticket. So I'm born and bred in Mufulira, did my schooling in Mufulira and went to university in Kitwe. By profession, I am a chartered accountant and I did work in my professional career as an accountant for a period spanning about 20 years before quitting formal employment and joining politics. I'm a family man, I'm married and I've got 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. Okay, so Mufulira Central Constituency is one of the 3 constituencies in Mufulira district. Records show that it was created as a constituency in 1954, and between 1954 and independence in 1964 there were about 2 members of parliament who served, and then in 1964 to date I happen to be the 11th member of parliament to serve in that constituency. The constituency has got 10 wards, from Ward 1 to Ward 10. So we serve with I serve with 10 councillors, and the constituency itself is located on the southern part of Mufulira district. So in terms of development, we have quite a loaded agenda. There are so many areas and so many sectors that we need to address and look at to better the lives of our people in the constituency. For this term, for this coming 5 years while I serve as Member of Parliament, one of the things that we are prioritizing is the road infrastructure, the township roads. The place has expanded, as a constituency. We have got areas which have been opened up, people have built houses, they are residing there, but we have a big problem with the road network. The roads are in bad state, and especially when you look at this current season, the rainy season, it is very, very difficult to even use some of the roads. So one of the items on our development agenda is to make sure that we improve on the road network. We have to use all the means possible, including seeking help from the central government and also from our local funding, the Constituency Development Fund, and working together with the local authority so that we make our township roads passable and usable. So that is one of the items in terms of development. The other areas of development we need to look at is the education sector. We need to improve education facilities. As you have seen now, in this year we are talking about free education from secondary school, grade 8 to grade 12, even primary, because even little monies that people would pay previously, like 10 kwacha PTA contribution, all those have been scrapped off. So schools have been overwhelmed. So this has just opened up our eyes and thinking to say we have a lot of people that want to attend school, but the infrastructure is not adequate. So we are going to work to ensure that we improve the infrastructure for education so that as many learners as possible can be absorbed. We are also looking at having a boarding school, in fact the first ever in our district, which is going to be located in our constituency, Mufulira Central constituency. Progress has been made. This is one of the schools that the government is going to build across the country, funded by the World Bank, and we are going to see that school come into our constituency. Our idea in order to help the government, increase capacity on that school, while the funding from the World Bank comes to put up the classrooms and the admins, we as the local people are going to look for funding from our CDF and other sources to ensure that we put up boarding facilities. So we are going to have a boarding school in Mufulira, the first of its kind, and we are excited and everyone is excited because now our children will not have to go out of town to go to a boarding school. So that is one area